Good afternoon. The first meeting, organizational meeting, if you will, this House Working Group on Public Safety here in this beautiful new headquarters for public safety. And I can see this thing paying benefits down the road for public safety and planning in our state for years and years and years to come, as the Colonel mentioned this morning, bringing all these agencies together on this great spot with all the right resources here. It's going to be good for Georgia. And thank y'all. I want to thank all the members that have agreed to serve with Chairman Hitchens on this panel. Chairman Ballinger's not here. She'll be a part of this group. Chairman Collins, Chairman Lumsden, and of course Chairman Prince. Thank you for y'all taking y'all's time to be here today. But y'all know I'd be remiss coming from where I come from and having known the Colonel, Chairman for so many years. It's been a part of my family's existence, if you will. Over the years, he had a special relationship with my dad when he was on the State Patrol and down in Effingham County. And I do appreciate Bill leading this effort. And you're the right guy that knows the background and knows how to get what we need to get done here and accomplish these things. To those of us in this room, it's no secret about his service in the past. Chaired the House Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security. Served 47 years in the military and law enforcement, including 28 years as a Georgia State Trooper, which he's pretty proud of. There's a nice photo outside, I think up in Billy's office, with him taking a shot down at during Governor Maddox's time down in a little speed trap down in Ludowici, Georgia. So when he was a young trooper. He also served as Georgia's first Director of Homeland Security, and certainly again served as the Colonel and the Director of the Georgia Department of Public Safety. Pretty well-rounded career, wouldn't you say? And he's a good husband and father and a grandfather on top of that. So with all those qualities put together, there's no one better qualified to lead this effort than Chairman Bill Hitchens, my dear friend and neighbor, just down the road from me. And I appreciate you, Bill, for stepping forward to making some good things happen for Georgians and for all those that you consider your brothers and sisters who wear the badge and put their lives out on the line for us. To this group, it's a simple charge. You are to explore policies to ensure that the state fulfills its obligations that we heard the Governor Kemp mention this morning. Under Article 1, Section 1, Paragraph 2 of our state constitution, protection to person and property is the paramount duty of government and shall be impartial and complete. Impartial and complete. Specifically, I want this group to work with the governor's administration. Governor Kemp's been a great partner in so many different areas, and other state agencies. I know the Chairman's already mentioned he's going to be working with those state agencies to determine how to recruit, retain, and reward state law enforcement officers. Pretty simple, I believe. Pretty simple task to follow up on, and I think this group is the right group of folks to make sure we get that done. Ultimately, your work should allow us to increase the number of State Patrol troopers keeping our highways and our communities safe. I want to repeat that one. Increase the number of officers out protecting the public and doing their job. As our societies have changed, as our communities have changed, this elite agency, has had more and more opportunities to come out and support local law enforcement, and that's a part of what y'all are going to talk about and how we continue to accomplish that mission. Whether it's looking at compensation and benefits, training, equipment, pretty good enhancement in equipment right here, or legislative solutions will be a part of your conversation. I know that your recommendations, this is not a simple issue. It's multifaceted. It's going to take some really good thought and some inspection and contemplation to come up with solutions to bring back to us. I also want those of you sitting here, the part of this group, to understand the central theme that underlies this effort. Since y'all all House members, y'all know this. The Georgia House of Representatives supports the men and women who serve this state and put themselves in harm's way to do so. We back the blue. You know, public safety is not only our responsibility as in state government, but it directly impacts the quality of life we all talk about all of the time, that each one of the Georgians and that we're responsible for, almost 11 million of us now. It impacts our quality of life. Best place in the nation in which to live, work, and raise a family. We hear that all the time. And have a little fun, I like to add. That's important. That's whom we are as a state. And these ladies and the men and women of the Georgia State Patrol are paramount in making sure, and other state agencies make sure, that opportunity for all Georgians is a possibility. We will continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with the governor, with the lieutenant governor, and certainly with Attorney General Chris Carr, and making safety a priority as we work together to ensure our continued bright future as a state. You know, a few months ago, when I was humbled to accept the office of Speaker of the House, I said then, and you guys know, that the House has led and it will continue to lead. Today, we lead on a very critical issue, one that is very, very fundamental to the very fabric of our society. For our citizens to feel safe in their homes, where they work, and where they play. That's your task. Thank you again for the work you have done and you will do on behalf of the House of Representatives and those people that elect us and the entire population of this state that we serve. But I also want to close by thanking all members of law enforcement, those who serve on the front lines every day. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate what you do. Your sacrifice and your service does not go unnoticed to millions and millions of Georgians, but it certainly does not go unnoticed and unappreciated by this group. When I'll certainly ask this, I know that this prayer goes out each and every day as you leave your families, that your families will be safe, that y'all will be safe, and you'll return home. So thank you for your service. As he has in the past, God has richly blessed us all in this room, as a state, and as a country. That's your task. I feel very confident and look forward to hearing your recommendations. Mr. Chairman, Colonel, full confidence in you to know that you will lead this group with a great background and different perspective on how we get this job done. So I'm very much looking forward to working with y'all and being a part where you need me and any resources that we can bring from the House to make your recommendation successful that we go back and implement in the future. Thank y'all for your service, and thanks for agreeing to serve. Thank you. And,
Well,
thanks to the media for being here as well.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think first off, I would like to thank you for assigning this committee and putting the personnel on here that you did. They're all very, very learned people with a background in law enforcement of some type and public safety at least. And we appreciate you and what you've done in behalf of law enforcement, in both when you were the majority leader and now as the speaker. And it's pretty overwhelming for me sometimes that to know that you, my neighbor, and your good buddy, my good buddy, your daddy, who was vice chairman of the county commission forever and ever in Effingham, and was very aware of public safety and had a great rapport with the state patrol, and your whole family has, Joe and your wife Dale. They've all been public safety advocates, and you know, there are a lot of things I could talk about, and I'm going to talk about some of them here today, but to know that you have the people behind you that want to make sure that our public is safe and secure, I think that's that's a very generous offering, and I've told the troopers all the time years ago when they believed that you know, they may be working for naught. I said, you know, you hear a lot from both ends of the spectrum about what you are or aren't doing, and how you're wasting tax money, and how belligerent you are, but I've always believed in a bell-shaped curve, and the overwhelming majority of people in this state appreciate you. They're too busy working, raising families, paying mortgages and car payments, making sure the kids get an education to be speaking out, but they support you. I know in our county, last year, they had the back to blue, and everybody in the county had a sign in the yard said back to blue, and that resonated with not just the troopers, but the city police and the sheriff's department, and when you have that kind of perspective, I think it goes a long way, and the State Patrol has had a great deal of difficulty in recent times recruiting people, and you don't have to look very far to see why. I mean, you can stop one car and your whole life can go not only for violence, but if you get accused of something, I tell people, any type of physical interaction, when you have to put your hands on somebody, it's never pretty. And people who don't understand it, take pictures of it sometimes, they think there's something drastic going on, but you try and manhandle somebody that's physically larger than you and stronger, and he's drunk and he doesn't care what he does. You know, the policy for the law enforcement officers, you're supposed to use the minimum amount of force necessary. Well, that's not the case for the perpetrator. He's going to use everything from kicking, biting, whatever he can do to try and get away. And your whole life could go down a tube. You get sued. You know, if you get charged with a criminal act in Georgia, the state doesn't represent you. You have to have a private attorney. They can't represent somebody that's been indicted for a crime. So it's a difficult situation. And we were talking the other day, some people and I, about some House members about pay. And I said, you know, when I came on in 1969, we had over 3,000 people. In the trooper school I had 5 people from off the street that made it. Everybody else had 4 or 5 years as a radio operator or license examiner, and they weren't competitive. They just moved right in. The rest of the 5 or 6 of us that got in were in competitive. You had to make a 98 on the test, and it's changed today. You know, the last trooper school I had before I retired, we had I think it was 1,200 people pass the written test. You go through the background investigation from the day you were born, take a lie detector test, go see the psychiatrist and get evaluated for your mental capacity, take a physical fitness test, go before an oral board, and then enter into trooper school. Out of that 1,200, we had 92 left. And the school was 7 months long, and it's pretty difficult. We graduated 41. So out of 1,200 people to pass the test, we got 41. And dare I say that we don't want to reduce the standards and take people that can't navigate that have background problems, psychological problems. You know, the number one, as I understand it from the psychologists, the number one problem for failing the psychological evaluation is they have a sense of power. You know, and that's the last thing we need in law enforcement officers is people out there that want to control other people. So it's a difficult process. There's not a whole lot of people that want to do it today. And I know you're a good businessman, and I've told some of the businessmen in the House, I said, this is an issue of supply and demand. It's not like it used to be. And in order to get our supply, we have to pay for it now. It used to be, you know, the starting salary when I came on was $450 a month. And it's certainly a far cry today, but inflation certainly has taken its toll too. But it's going to be difficult in the future to hire people that want to do this job, that have the capability, and they have the high moral and ethical standards that we demand from them. I mean, not everybody in this state, whenever they have an issue about their job work, goes down the hall here and sits on a lie detector and is asked about what really happened. I mean, that goes through your mind a lot through your career when you're involved in something. And I told our chief legal advisor one time, I said, you know, when I get in a tight situation, there's a little bell that goes off in the back of my head that says, be careful here. You know, you're on the edge. And as I dealt with people with disciplinary actions, I was talking to our chief legal advisor, and I told her that, and she said, everybody doesn't have that bill. And when they get, it's a human nature. You get involved in the physical confrontation, sometimes your natural instincts take over, and it's tough. But the reason for the committee, as I understand it, is to go through the issues, try and figure out what we can do to try and make things better and to be able to retain our people so that they'll stay. Sometimes I'm embarrassed to tell it, but you know, I'm under the old retirement system, and I got 90% of my salary when I retired. And today they get 1%. And compensation is better, but the retirement is tough. And 90% of the people, there was only one guy out here today that went through trooper school with me today, and but 90% of the people went through trooper school with me, did 34 years and retired because they knew they were going to get that all along. They knew they'd going to get that 90% and be secure in their life for the rest of their lives. And that's certainly not the case today. And you know, Mr. Speaker, I represent the city of Pooler, and I can imagine that the city of Pooler, which has 60 police officers, can pay theirs 3% a year towards retirement, and you serve 30 years, you get 90%. And the state of Georgia can only afford 1%, and work 30 years, you get 30%. I had a guy from Pooler that tried to get on the state patrol and wasn't able to do it. He came to me several years ago and he said, I make as much money as the troopers do, and I'm gonna get a 90% retirement, and I don't ever have to worry about getting transferred. I'm staying where I am. And so that's just some of the difficulties from personal experience, but we would like to run the gamut. And one of the first things I've done here is I've developed a survey that I want to send out to all state agencies. And I haven't introduced Courtney George. She's my analyst in my from the House Budget Officer, and Courtney is a very bright young lady. She not only is an accountant, she's an attorney too, and she keeps us on base, and not only from the perspective of doing the right thing, but making sure that we don't abuse the taxpayers' money. That's always something that you have to be very concerned about. Is we only have so much money, and there are a lot of shares up at the legislature, a lot of people just in my committee for public safety, all the judges and the courts and district attorneys and all the state law enforcement agencies. But I've developed a questionnaire that I'm gonna hand out to the members here today, and I hope to get Courtney to send it out to all the state agencies. And I've asked some questions there about when we gave the pay raise last year, some state agencies had law enforcement personnel that didn't get them because we didn't know they had them. And I was shocked at how many state agencies have law enforcement personnel in there. And one of the things I want to find out is, what do they do? Do they make any arrests? Do they do investigations? Are they sitting at the desk all day long? Do they work shift work on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays? And you know, I don't think it's too intrusive, but it gives us a starting point about who we have and what they do. And I'm going to hand it out to the committee members today and ask them to review it first, see if there's anything else. One thing I didn't include in there was that I thought about as I was coming up yesterday is that your retention rate. You know, I was stunned when we had the committee hearing on juvenile justice for appropriations. I found out that they had 97% turnover last year. Wow. You know, it's like corrections. It's not a good job. I mean, you deal with people that are mad all the time, and there are certain guidelines that you have to go by, but certainly we need people there to help our juvenile personnel that have run afoul of the law, to trying to get them straightened out so that they can be law-abiding good citizens one day. And if you can't keep good people doing it, I don't know how you run an organization, and you couldn't run yours if you had a 97% loss of personnel over a year. So there are a lot of things to look at, and, you know, pay.
I'd probably have to go to work with the news media if I did that. I'm just kidding, guys.
But those are just some of the things I've thought about, and certainly, like I said, I'm tickled that everybody here has got some kind of background in law enforcement, the military, and they understand what the issues are. And many of us have been in some type of government organization previously and understand the role of the taxpayer, and that we just can't do everything that we want to do. I mean, we're limited in how much money there is. I always have that problem every year in appropriations. We have so much money and everybody's asking for so many things, we have to prioritize everybody, and there's just so much to go around. So I'm open for anything anybody else on the committee wants to contribute. But
I'll just say this, Bill, we're gonna step out. I think you folks here covering this initial meeting understand the depth and breadth of the experience and understanding that exists in these folks sitting around this table. Come from different perspectives from different parts of the state, and I think we're gonna find some really good solutions here. And I hope that you will continue to give this committee's work some attention. I think it's a story that we need to tell, and to not only just the other members, but to the public in general. And I'm gonna go ahead and say to you up front, I appreciate y'all's service and y'all's willingness to give up your time and to address these issues, so thank you. You guys have anything we need to address before I get out of here? Raul?
We just appreciate the fact that you decided to do this, and I think it's a very positive step, not only for the people involved, but for the citizens of our state. You know, we all want to be safe, and
We do, and thank y'all for what y'all do for us. Thank y'all for being here.
For any of the media, if you want to come out, the speaker will let this meeting continue.
All right, Robert. See you. Thank you. Thank y'all. You got a tough job, young lady. Good luck to you. Y'all be safe. Traveling. Take care, Norma.
pickpockets.
Watch those guys that put your baggage on the trains, so you can tell you how.
We're gonna take care of business right here.
See you guys. Good to do.
That's an inside joke. Let me pass these things out. I didn't. No. I was gonna say something about y'all, though. The other thing that a lot of people don't understand is, when I left the Department of Public Safety, they did a nationwide study of manpower. And per capita in Georgia, we have 8 troopers for every 100,000 people. The national average is 24. So to come up to the national average, we would have to triple the size of the state patrol. And I've never understood that when I came out of trooper school, we had 675 troopers 50-some years ago. And today, what is it? Yeah, so, it hadn't changed. Whether there were 4.5 million people in this state. None of the interstates were completely open. And now we got 11 million people with all the interstates and all the through traffic that's going to Disney World and all. And we've never increased our size. And I've never really understood it when South Carolina, that's half our size in population and about just over half as big, has about 300 more troopers than we do. North Carolina's got 1,800. Florida's got about 1,800. Kentucky's got over 1,000. Louisiana's got over 1,000, and we got 700. I don't know how they expect us to. And you'll see when I come up here from Savannah, and I probably shouldn't say this, but you hardly ever see a trooper on the interstate. And the truth of the matter is, they're the safest highways in the state. The people that get killed are on the back roads, and they're at night, and that's where the troopers work primarily. And some people that run radar and do speed detection at different levels of government work on the interstates, and because of political concerns, they don't work in the they don't work on the rural areas of their counties or cities. So it's kind of tough. And I kept my mouth shut for a long time, and that's when I was a state employee. But I get elected by the people in my district now, and I can kind of say what I want. And if they don't like it, they can vote me out. But they've all been very supportive of me ever since I ran the first time. So and we live in a community that my son grew up there. It's safe and secure. I mean, our school system is one of the top school systems in the state. We lead the coast every year in test scores. We send busloads of kids off to Georgia and Georgia Tech every year, and it's and it's kind of idyllic compared to some places. I've worked all over this state, and I thank God sometimes that I am where I am, and particularly when you go over to Southwest Georgia and you see the poverty and the poor school systems, and those kids don't have a chance, and they can't even afford good law enforcement sometimes. It's we developed post counsel over here when I was still a trooper, and it was one of the most unique things that happened in our state, because there's some pictures around here of the sign in Ludowici that Governor Maddox put up, and some of them were of me guarding that sign, and before we had post counsel, we had some people riding in police cars that were worse than the people that they were arresting. And, you know, a lot of that's been cleared up, and professionalism has really risen, but we've still got the problem. And I don't know how many of you know, last year Tennessee and North Carolina gave gigantic pay raises to their troopers, and they have a lot more people than we have, particularly North Carolina. And what is it, $70,000 starting salary now in Tennessee? And we got a slew of people in North Georgia that live, I mean, it's only like 90 or 100 miles from Atlanta to Tennessee. Do you think that they've got a good retirement system and good pay, that people that live up there aren't, and no state taxes, might not apply for the Tennessee Highway Patrol or North Carolina? I mean, I tell businessmen, I've told John, you know, you heard me say, it's supply and demand. And it used to be we had plenty of supply, but when you don't have anything, you don't have that supply, you gotta pay. And that's where we're headed. But and I'll pass out these. One thing I forgot to put on here is that is the retention rate. But and I don't want to pass this out yet, but I mean for everybody. But I'd like for you all to take a gander of it and see what if there's anything else that you'd like to put on there. But I'd like to send it out to all the state agencies to try and identify where law enforcement officers are. Did you all know that the Secretary of State has got law enforcement officers? And the Revenue Department still has them. Now, they used to be a vital cog in our system with regard to alcohol taxation. I mean, when we used to raid stills and all, that was their job, is non-tax paid whiskey. But I'm just shocked. When I used to be the Homeland Security Director, we had no law enforcement officers there. There are about 6 over there now. And
Agriculture has some as well.
well, I dealt with them when I was the Homeland Security Director, and they need some. They, you know, particularly with regard to biological warfare.
Yeah.
You know, in the Homeland Security environment, it's like COVID. One of the things that a lot of terrorists or countries with less than a lot of integrity do is try and infect your livestock with diseases that, you know, if you don't have anything to eat, it kind of puts you in a tough situation. And we monitor a whole lot more than you could ever imagine in the Homeland Security environment. And, you know, everything from radiation and nuclear, you know, there's spots all over the state where that's an ongoing thing that they check on a routine basis. If the motor carrier people have them in their weight stations, and some of them, when they go through there, they're monitored to see if they have any radioactive equipment on them, because they stop a lot of trucks sometimes that are going to hospitals that use radioactivity in medical care. But they're making sure that people that have things that we don't want them to have going down the road are stopped before they can do something destructive. And that's about all I have. I just, you know, some of us came today it's 250 miles for me to come up here, and I don't, as Courtney will tell you, I don't come up here all the time. And I felt like I needed to come to the meeting this morning, and I'm getting ready to go for about 10 or 11 days. I wanted to get something started. And I waited for the speaker to give me some direction. And he's been so busy. We rode in the parade together Saturday, and we talked about this, and he decided to come and get it done. So
I think you hit the nail on the head when you start talking about that retirement benefit. That's the one.
well, I just went to the retirement.
That's the one I was gonna bring that up too, because I'd like to know, and I think maybe we get a better sense if we maybe ask questions of people that have been hired recently or maybe been on a few years, but.
And I probably should have told you all, John Carson came over there and did, you know, he's got a retirement bill. And he just came over at 12 o'clock in the auditorium, and I went over there and sat and listened to it. And it's a great bill, but my concern and the speaker's concern is, you know, it's gone to audits now so that we get a fiscal note. And my sense is, in listening to it, and I told them, I said, you know, it sounds great, but don't get your expectations too high. You know, I've already been contacted by a couple of state representatives that say it's gonna cost too much.
It's expensive.
Yeah,
Well,
it's gonna be expensive.
My question centered around what, I mean, for me, for you, we understand, and that was something that was very important to us. How important is that component of the overall attractiveness?
I think it's pretty significant
How,
because.
how is it, what's the percentage of importance that the people that are actually potentially going to be hired, what do they place on that retirement factor? For us, it's a very high thing.
And I've got this, and I've gone through it it's pretty thorough. Last year, they did a study on pay throughout the state for public safety. I mean, all levels of public safety. And,
Right.
They didn't hit that much in state agencies, but Department of Public Safety put this together, and they promised me they'll get each one of you one of these so that you can review it all, and you can see it's pretty thorough.
Do you know, do they conduct exit interviews for
Yeah.
troopers?
Yeah,
Have we got some of that information we can look at?
we can get it, sure.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful.
I think that's vitally important. I know when I was mayor, we had, some turnover, and get to talking to some of those officers and figure out why they're leaving. I think that's vitally important.
Well, see, what we've got right now, and it ended in 2007, but we got a lot of people that were hired prior to that, and they have a disability retirement.
Right.
Right?
And if you make 13 years and 4 months, and you get deemed as having a disability, you can leave at a significant amount more than you would if you hang on. I know a guy that retired the same day that I was a major, and he had 30 years, and he said, and Governor Perdue and I got into it, but he wanted to know why they could do that. I said, it's the law. He said, well, why do you let them do it? I said, I have spoken at length with the commissioner of the employees' retirement system. He says it's none of my business, that under the law, it's between the retirement system and the employee. But hearing problems, I don't know what level. I've never seen anybody turned down. But hearing problems, I just can't stand this work anymore. I've seen too many dead bodies, and of course, very obviously, and I never wanted to lose it, because we have people that catch cancer, people that get in automobile wrecks, people that get shot, and they need a retirement, disability retirement. But some of them, I got 2 in my hometown that on disability retirement run the golf cart place. Every time I go by there, they under there cranking wrenches, and they're if you make it to 27 years, you can get 90%. If you stay to 30 and get a normal retirement, you get 60%. So there've been a tremendous number of people over the last 15 years who have left under disabilities. Now, that's not in effect anymore. If you were hired after 2007, but they're still having people leave, and most people understand the monetary part of it. Everybody wants more money, but I could have left. I've got hearing problems, and mine were from.
What'd you say?
Mine were from the Vietnam War. I mean, when I got out the Marines, I had a significant. When I went to OCS and the Coast Guard, I failed the test, and I wrote them a nasty letter and said, if that's the case, I ought to be entitled to some kind of disability. And they gave me a waiver, and I said I could go, but I couldn't be in comms. I couldn't fly. There were several MOSs that they said I couldn't be involved in, and they let me go. But I would have never gotten hired if we'd had a hearing test with the State Patrol, but back then we didn't have one. So anyway, it's a lot to think about, and I can talk all day, but I don't know that we're going anywhere. But they promised me to get this done so that y'all can have a look at it, and anything that y'all think we need to look at, like Eddie says, we can do surveys and agencies about why you stay and why you leave, or look at. Everybody does an exit interview now.
Yeah.
I
Except.
think that exit interview is just
Yeah.
about it. It's important. And will you able to get this to us, Courtney, in soft copy?
And feel free to change the verbiage. I sat down and just poked it on the computer one day, and but you can take it.
Okay, all right.
I just wanted everybody to look at it and see if there's. I know we need to put something in there about retention levels, but the speaker kind of wants to steer towards public safety, and the GBI has no problems. I mean, in this day and time, NCIS and FBI show, everybody wants to be an investigator. And they are frontline people. They've always, you know, when I was a young trooper, they tried to get me to be a GBI agent at one time to buy marijuana, but I looked like a kid, and they thought I could get in the high school, college crowd and be one of them. But Crime Lab was over there. You heard it this morning. Every state agency was born across the street over here, and then they all went on to be independent agencies. And I wasn't happy with a lot of it, because now instead of one commissioner and all the money going into one place, they got 10 commissioners and 10 staffs and 10 sets of lawyers and 10, and you know, I'm not here anymore, but public safety still does human resources and finance for the Public Safety Training Center and for the Fire Academy, and somebody else. I can't remember now, but we still ought to do the work for them, but we don't have any say what to do, because they ran out of money one time and they wanted us. So I said, you know, we handle the money for you. We don't spend it, and we're not giving you any of ours. So they went back to the governor to get some money, but we can't tell them not to spend it. But and it's wide open, and those of you who don't know Courtney, Eddie's on our committee, and so is our missing partner here today. But she's bright, very forthright. She'll tell you no. But I appreciate her, and she does a great job. And,
Keep him on the straight and narrow.
but that's about all I have, and I appreciate everybody coming.